Hi there, this is Stories for Sleep, and I'm Thumanis here to spend a quiet evening with you. A space where nothing needs to get done, where you can let the day go gently. Right now, just lie down as comfortably as you can. Let your hands rest beside you or gently over your belly. No need to adjust anything, just be. Take a slow breath in, hold it softly, then exhale easy and quiet. One more time. Inhale deeply. Feel the air cooling your chest and exhale like you're letting the day slip away. Now bring your attention to your forehead. If you're holding tension, let it go. Let your brow soften. Move down to your shoulders. Feel them sinking into the mattress. Relax your arms, hands, and fingertips. Let them feel light, like they're floating in warm water. Notice your chest and belly gently rising and falling, like a quiet boat rocking on still water. And now, know that there's nothing more you have to do. No one needs you to respond. No one is waiting. This moment is just for you and for a story told softly to help you rest. Whenever you're ready, we'll begin. Hey guys, tonight we're going to wander into a quiet corner of the world. But first, let me ask you something. What if the silence you fear is the answer you've been searching for? Imagine cobblestone streets glistening under the glow of paper lanterns. The air cool enough to make you pull your blanket closer. Somewhere ahead, hidden in mist, there's a temple you can't see yet. Only the faint light of a single lantern swaying in the distance. The light you're chasing might be hiding in the dark. And trust me, if you try to walk through this story too quickly, you'll end up wetter than a sock left in a washing machine. You wouldn't survive a minute. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know, where are you listening from and what time is it for you right now? Drop it in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The rain had been falling for hours. Not a heavy punishing downpour, but the kind of steady drizzle that makes every sound seem softer, more distant. You walked along the narrow path, shoes squeaking faintly, with each step the night carrying the scent of wet earth and cedar. Your robe borrowed for this imagined journey clung to your legs, damp, but warm enough to keep away the chill. Through the mist, the shape of a man appeared, an old monk in simple grey robes, his head bare to the rain. In his hand, a paper lantern. The light flickered golden and fragile, illuminating the faint smile on his face. He didn't hurry toward you. Instead, he waited as though he had been expecting you all along. Lost, his voice was gentle, carrying easily over the rain. You nodded. There was no point pretending otherwise. The path had twisted and turned so many times you'd long stopped knowing which way led home. The monk lifted the lantern slightly. "Come," he said. "It's not far." You followed your feet, splashing through shallow puddles. The glow from the lantern pooled at your feet, spilling forward like a moving island of warmth in the dark. You found yourself matching his pace unhurried, almost meditative. For a while, neither of you spoke. The only sounds were the patter of rain on leaves, the rhythmic creak of the lantern's handle, and your own steady breathing. At one bend in the path, you noticed the paper of the lantern was thin, nearly worn through in places. The flame inside wavered with each gust of wind. "Isn't it dangerous?" you asked, quietly, nodding toward the fragile light. The monk glanced at it. "All light is temporary," he said. "It's not the lantern's job to last forever, it's to guide you while it can." The words settled over you like the rain, gentle, persistent, and somehow impossible to ignore. Somewhere in the distance, the faint outline of the temple began to emerge. Its wooden eaves curved like the wings of a sleeping bird. You felt a strange mix of relief and reluctance. Relief to arrive, reluctance to end this quiet walk. The monk stopped just before the gates. He held the lantern toward you, the flame dancing wildly, as if sensing its final moments. "Take it," he said. You hesitated. "What if it goes out?" Then he smiled. "You will walk with the darkness. That is also a way." You took the lantern, its handle smooth from years of use. The monk gave a slight bow, then turned and vanished into the rain without another word. The flame swayed, throwing shadows across the wooden gates. You stepped forward, your wet shoes squeaking, and pushed the gate open. The courtyard inside was silent except for the rain tapping on the tiled roof. You set the lantern down on the steps, watching the light shrink as the candle inside burned low. For a moment, you wondered if this meeting had been real or just a dream, carried in by the rain. But as you listened, you could still hear the faint creak of the lantern's handle swinging in the distance. You take a slow breath now, feeling the cool air, hearing the rain in your mind. You're not in a rush. Let the image of that golden light drift with you, a small and gentle guide in whatever night you're walking through. And as you begin to feel the calm settle in your body, know that this is only the first step. The road ahead holds tea that never runs out, bells that ring without a hand, and lessons you don't yet see coming. The rain from last night still lingers in your mind, like the scent of damp earth that refuses to leave your robe. Morning has arrived, but it is not the kind of morning that rushes in. It's the slow, careful kind, stretching itself across the sky in soft shades of grey and pale gold. You find yourself in the temple's kitchen, the air warm with steam, the faint aroma of roasted barley drifting toward you. At the low wooden table, a monk in faded brown robes is pouring tea. His hands move with an ease that makes time seem irrelevant, as though he's been doing this for centuries. The teapot is small clay, unglazed, worn smooth where fingers have touched it again and again. The cup before you is no larger than the hollow of your palm. "You look like someone who hasn't had a proper drink," he says, his voice as soft as the steam, curling upward. You smile. "It's true." He pours. The tea streams in a thin ribbon, filling the cup, stopping at just the right moment. You lift it, letting the warmth seep into your fingers before taking a sip. The flavor is gentle, slightly sweet, with a whisper of earth as if it has pulled something of the mountain into itself. As soon as you finish, he pours again, and again, and again. The teapot never seems to empty. Is there more in there than it looks? You ask, half joking. The monk chuckles. It's not about how much the pot holds. It's about how you drink. You pause, considering this. Each cup is small. Each sip even smaller. And yet, somehow you never feel the need to rush to gulp to hoard the tea, as though it might run out. Outside, the wind brushes against the paper screens, making them sway slightly. The room is warm, the sound of pouring water almost like a heartbeat. You see, the monk continues, when you drink like this, there is always enough. Even if the pot is small. The problem is, most people drink with the fear of emptiness. The words slip into you like the tea, warm, subtle, impossible to forget. After a while, he leans back, letting the teapot rest. The steam curls upward in thin ribbons, disappearing into the cool air. You glance inside, expecting to see the last drops gone. But somehow, the pot is still heavy. You can't help but laugh quietly. It really never ends, does it? He shakes his head. Everything ends. But if you're present for each cup, you won't be waiting for the last one. You set your cup down slowly, as though placing it too quickly might break the spell. There is no rush to leave, no need to think about where you should be next. The tea, the warmth, the soft movements of his hands. This is the entire world for now. From somewhere deeper in the temple, a single bell begins to ring. Its tone carries through the wooden beams, low and steady. The monk glances toward the sound and smiles. That, he says, is the bell for you. You don't know what he means, but you stand, bow slightly, and make your way toward the sound. The air outside is cool, carrying the scent of wet pine. The bell rings again somewhere in the mist, and you follow each step, slow, the rhythm of tea still in your body. And as you walk, you wonder if one cup can hold so much. What might a single sound hold? The sound drifts through the mist like a thread of silver, thin, steady, impossible to hold. You pause at the edge of the courtyard, eyes searching for the source, though something tells you it doesn't matter if you see it. The bell's tone feels less like it's ringing in the air and more like it's ringing somewhere inside you. Each strike is slow. There is space between them, wide enough to slip a lifetime of thoughts into, and yet, in that space, nothing feels urgent. You step out through the gate and follow the path downhill. The morning fog clings to the ground, curling around your ankles, while droplets of rain still cling to the leaves overhead. In the distance, the roof of a small wooden pavilion appears just at the edge of the forest. Inside, a lone monk stands before an ancient bronze bell. He holds the wooden striker in both hands, his eyes closed, his breathing calm. When he moves, it's not sudden. It's as though the air itself gently guides the arc of the striker until it meets the bell with a deep, resonant hum. You stand silently, not wanting to disturb him. After a few more strikes, the monk opens his eyes and glances toward you. You came for the sound, he says, as if it's not a question. I think so, you reply, realizing how strange that sounds. He gestures for you to come closer. Most people come for the sight of the bell, the carvings, the patina. But those are only its clothes. The sound, that is its body. You notice the intricate etchings on the bell's surface, tiny swirls and patterns worn smooth by centuries of weather. But as your eyes trace the designs, the bell hums again, and suddenly they seem unimportant compared to the way the sound fills the space. Why does it feel like it's slowing everything down? You ask quietly. The monk smiles. Because the sound is not in a hurry to leave you. It arrives fully, stays just enough, and then it goes. People who listen closely often start to live the same way. He offers you the striker. The wood is warm from his hands. You lift it, uncertain of how hard to swing. Your first strike is timid. The bell answers with a softer hum, like a whisper that doesn't want to wake someone. The monk nods approvingly. Even the smallest sound can carry far if you let it. You close your eyes and try again. This time, the tone blooms, spreading out like ripples on a still pond. You can almost feel it moving through your ribs, your breath, your thoughts. And then it fades. For a long moment, neither of you speak. The forest outside is silent, as if the sound has reached it, too, telling it to pause. Finally, the monk steps back. Now listen to the space after the sound. That's where it lives. You set the striker down, bow slightly, and step outside. The fog seems lighter now, the air clearer, and somewhere inside you a quiet resonance remains, like the bell has left a small piece of itself behind. As you walk back up the path toward the temple, you notice a pair of sandals left neatly by the gate. No one is around. No footprints on the wet ground. Just the sandals waiting. And you wonder who left them there, and why would someone walk away barefoot into the rain? The sandals sit just inside the temple gate, worn straw soles, the straps darkened by years of use. They look as though they've been waiting all night, though the rain has left no puddle beneath them. You crouch down, running a finger along the edge. The straw is soft, almost smooth, the way something becomes after countless journeys. You glance around, but the courtyard is empty. The morning mist is beginning to thin, curling away like breath on a mirror. Somewhere deep in the temple, a bird begins to call 3 short notes. Then silence. A young monk appears from behind one of the pillars, carrying a bundle of folded robes. He stops when he sees you looking at the sandals. Do you know whose these are, you ask? He shakes his head with a small smile. They've been here since before dawn. No one claims them. You frown. Why would someone leave without their shoes? The monk sets the robes down on a low bench and sits beside them. Sometimes people come here carrying more than they can bear. Not just in their hands, but in their hearts. They think they're here to pray, but really, they're here to put something down. You think about the sandals again. Whoever wore them didn't just forget, they chose to leave them. A deliberate absence. Maybe they didn't need them anymore. The monk continues, his gaze drifting toward the gate. Sometimes the only way forward is barefoot. You imagine it for a moment, walking out into the wet earth without the barrier of straw or leather. Feeling each stone, each patch of moss, each cool puddle. There's a strange freedom in the thought, even if it sounds uncomfortable. The monk reaches for the sandals, lifts them gently, and places them by the side of the gate, where the morning sun is just beginning to reach. They'll dry here, he says, and if no one comes for them, they'll be used by someone who needs them more. A breeze moves through the courtyard, rattling the paper screens, carrying with it the faint scent of the river beyond the walls. The monk looks at you. What about you? Is there something you've been carrying too long? The question lands in you like a pebble dropped into deep water. Small, but you know the ripples will spread. You think about it as you walk toward the sound of the river. Your steps slow, the sandals still in your mind. Somewhere ahead, the water moves in a constant rush, a reminder that nothing waits forever. Not rivers, not people, not even the questions we avoid asking ourselves. And you wonder if the river never waits. What will it carry away when you finally step into it? The path narrows as you approach the river, the ground soft underfoot from last night's rain. The air is cooler here, touched with the scent of wet stone and wild grass. You hear it before you see it, a steady, unbroken rush, like the low hum of some ancient being that has never stopped speaking. When the trees finally part, the river is there, wide, restless, its surface dappled with the reflection of the morning light. It's not in a hurry yet, it never pauses. Every ripple seems to be on its way somewhere else. A young novice is crouched at the bank, cupping water in his hands and letting it spill through his fingers. He doesn't notice you until you step closer. Master says the river has no memory, he says without looking up. It just keeps going. You watch the current carry a small branch past your feet, twisting and spinning as it disappears downstream. No memory at all, you ask. He shakes his head. If it remembered, it would stop to hold on to things, and then it wouldn't be a river anymore. The thought makes you still. You think of the sandals at the temple gate, of the tea that seemed never to end, of the bell's fading hum. Each moment flowing into the next, impossible to keep. The novice stands wiping his hands on his robe. Master says people suffer because they stand in the water trying to push it back upstream. You glance at the current, wondering how much of your life has been spent like that, fighting what was already moving away. Across the river, the mist is lifting to reveal a stretch of pale stones. The novice notices you looking. There's a way across, he says, but the stepping stones are uneven. You can't look at them all at once. You have to take each step as it comes. He starts across his balance, sure his pace slow. You follow the water surging between the stones, cool spray brushing your ankles. For a moment you wobble, your arms flailing slightly, and he laughs, not unkindly. You think too far ahead, he calls back. One stone at a time. When you reach the other side, the sound of the river feels different, less like something rushing past, more like something carrying you along. The novice points up a slope toward the temple's small dining hall. It's almost breakfast. There's rice today. You follow him up the path, your feet still damp, the river's movement echoing in your chest. Somewhere behind you, the water keeps flowing, not waiting for your thanks, not needing it. And you wonder when you sit down to eat, will you be able to taste each bite without thinking about the last or the next? The dining hall smells of steamed rice and miso broth, the kind of scent that settles into the air like a gentle reminder that the day has truly begun. You step inside, brushing a few stray drops of river water from your robe, and the warmth embraces you instantly. Long, low tables stretch across the room, each set with simple wooden bowls and pairs of chopsticks. A few monks are already seated, their backs straight, their movements slow but deliberate. No one speaks above a whisper, and even those words seem to dissolve into the steam rising from the food. You take a seat beside the novice who led you from the river. In front of you is a bowl of rice, plain white, glistening slightly in the morning light, filtering through the paper windows. The abbot, an elderly man with deep lines at the corners of his eyes, moves quietly between the rows, pouring tea into each person's cup. When he reaches you, he pauses and studies your face. Hungry? He asks. You nod, though it feels like more than your stomach is answering. He smiles, setting the teapot down. Before you eat, look at the rice. You glance down, unsure what you're supposed to see. Every grain has been touched by 1,000 hands. The abbot says softly. The farmer who planted it, the rain that fed it, the sun that warmed it, the hands that harvested, washed and cooked it. You hold all of that in your bowl. You lift the bowl carefully, the steam curling against your cheeks. For a moment you feel as though the warmth in your hands isn't just from the rice, it's from the entire journey it took to reach you. The first bite is simple, almost delicate. Yet, the more you chew, the more the flavor unfolds, sweet, earthy grounding. It's not just food, it's an arrival. No one rushes. Each bite feels like a small, private conversation with the world. The clink of chopsticks against wood is the only sound steady and gentle. At one point, you realize you've been holding your breath between mouthfuls, as if not to disturb the quiet. The novice notices and grins faintly. Rice tastes better when you breathe with it, he whispers. You try it, inhale, chew, swallow, exhale. And strangely, he's right. The rhythm makes the meal feel endless, even though the bowl slowly empties. When you finish, the abbot returns, collecting the bowls. He glances at yours and nods. You ate with gratitude. That is enough. Outside, the sun has climbed a little higher, its light now spilling across the temple courtyard. A few clouds drift lazily over the mountain beyond their shadows, stretching across the rooftops. The novice stands, stretching his arms. The clouds will be good today, he says, as though he's talking about old friends. And you wonder, what can a cloud possibly teach? Drifting so far above, the path to the mountain rises gently behind the temple, winding past small plots of vegetables and a row of persimmon trees whose leaves tremble in the morning breeze. The air grows thinner as you climb, carrying with it the faint scent of pine and stone warmed by the sun. The novice walks a few steps ahead, his robe brushing the tops of wild grasses. He pauses at a small clearing where a flat rock offers a view across the valley. You sit beside him, your legs grateful for the rest. Above the distant ridges, clouds drift slowly, great billowing shapes tinged with silver at the edges, their undersides deepening into soft shadows. They move without urgency, shifting and folding into one another like thoughts you've stopped trying to control. The novice points toward one particularly large cloud. When I was little, I thought clouds decided where they wanted to go. I didn't know they were moved by wind. You watch as a high current catches the cloud's edge, stretching it thin until it becomes something entirely different. I guess none of us move only by our own will, you say. He smiles faintly. Maybe. Or maybe we are the wind and the cloud at the same time. For a while you both sit without speaking. The silence isn't empty. It's full like a bowl that needs no more to be complete. The sound of the temple bell faintly reaches you here, carried on the wind, mingling with the distant call of a bird hidden in the trees. A lone hawk appears against the sky, circling slowly, its wings steady. It glides past a cluster of clouds, its shadow rippling across them, for only a heartbeat before disappearing. The novice leans back, resting his hands behind him. When I watch clouds, I remember that my thoughts are the same. They look solid, but they're not. They pass on their own if I don't grab them. You think about the river, the sandals, the lantern, each one a kind of cloud in its own way. Here for a while, then gone. The sun shifts and the shadows on the mountain change shape, as though the earth itself is exhaling. The novice rises, brushing the dust from his robe. There's an old pine tree up ahead, he says. It's been here longer than the temple. If the clouds teach you about letting go, the pine teaches about holding on. You follow him higher, your feet, finding the rhythm of the trail, wondering what a tree that has seen centuries might say if it could speak. The trail narrows until it is little more than a ribbon of packed earth winding between moss-covered stones. The air here feels older, cooler, heavier, with the scent of resin and damp bark. Then just beyond a curve you see it. The old pine rises from the slope like a guardian. Its trunk is thick and gnarled, twisted into curves that look like the muscles of some ancient creature. The bark is rough patched with lichen, its color shifting from deep brown to silvery gray where the years have worn it smooth. The novice stops a few steps away and bows slightly as though greeting an elder. You follow his lead, feeling oddly self-conscious, bowing to a tree, yet also right. This pine has stood here for more than 800 years, the novice says quietly. It's seen storms, fires, snow, and summers so dry the earth cracked. But it's still here. You step closer, running a hand along the bark. The surface is uneven, the ridges sharp in places, yet there's a kind of warmth beneath your palm. Above its branches stretch wide, each one thick and heavy, their needles whispering faintly in the breeze. What keeps it alive this long, you ask? The novice tilts his head. It bends. When the wind comes, it doesn't fight. When snow falls, it lets the weight rest until it melts. When the sun burns, it draws water from deep inside the mountain. It's patient. You look up through the branches to where the sky peaks between clusters of needles. A crow lands on one high limb, cocks its head at you, and then lets out a single sharp call before flying off. For a while, neither of you speak. The pine sways slightly, each movement slow, deliberate, like a breath you can almost see. The sound of the wind in its needles is different from the sound in younger trees, lower, fuller, as if each gust must travel through centuries before it reaches your ears. You can lean against it if you like, the novice says. It won't mind. You rest your back against the trunk. Its solid grounding and the scent of pine resin rises around you, sharp yet somehow calming. With your eyes closed, you feel the faint vibration of the wind moving through the branches the same way you once felt the bell's resonance in your chest. When you open your eyes again, the novice is already a few steps ahead on the trail. "Come," he says. The courtyard needs sweeping before the afternoon. You smile faintly. Even when there's nothing there, he glances back, especially then. You take one last look at the old pine before following. And you wonder, what could sweeping an empty space possibly teach? The courtyard is almost too quiet. The sun hangs in that lazy place between morning and afternoon, casting long, slow shadows across the stone tiles. A few leaves lie scattered here and there, but mostly the space is clear, so clear that you wonder if sweeping it is just an excuse to be outside. An older monk stands near the edge, holding a long broom of bundled twigs. His robe is patched at the elbows, the fabric soft from years of wear. He sweeps in slow arcs, the bristles whispering across the stone. It's not hurried work. Each stroke seems to match the rhythm of his breathing. You watch for a while before stepping closer. There's hardly anything to sweep, you say. Without pausing, he replies, "There's always something to sweep." You glance around again. But even if you sweep it now, the wind will just blow more leaves in later. He smiles faintly. And when that happens, I will sweep again. The broom lifts a single dry leaf, sending it skittering toward the gate. It's joined by another and another, until a small, quiet parade of leaves makes its way out into the open air. Isn't it tiring doing the same thing every day, you ask? The monk stops for a moment, resting the broom handle against his shoulder. When you eat, do you stop because you will be hungry again tomorrow? Or do you eat because today you are hungry now? The question sits between you for a while, like a small stone in the palm, ordinary but heavier than it looks. He resumes sweeping, and you notice how the broom catches even the faint dust that you hadn't seen before. The sound of bristles against stone is almost hypnotic, a steady shh, shh that begins to slow your own breathing. After a few minutes, he offers the broom to you. You take it, the handle worn smooth where countless hands have held it. The first sweep feels awkward, but then you fall into the same rhythm. Breathe in, sweep, breathe out, sweep. The movement becomes less about cleaning and more about simply moving. When the last corner is swept, the monk nods toward the open gate. See empty again. You look over the courtyard, clean, quiet. The air faintly scented with pine from the nearby trees. But you realize it's not the emptiness that feels satisfying. It's the time you spent creating it. Somewhere beyond the gate, you catch sight of the master standing in the shade of the veranda. His gaze is fixed on something in the distance. But when you approach, he doesn't speak. He simply looks at you, then turns back to his silent watching. You wait for words, but none come. And you wonder what kind of lesson begins with nothing at all. The master stands at the edge of the veranda, his hands folded neatly behind his back. The light falls across his face in a way that makes it hard to tell if he's smiling or simply resting. You step closer, but his eyes remain on the horizon, where the line of the mountain meets the sky. You wait for him to speak. Masters always speak in stories. At least that's what you've come to expect. But the only sound is the faint creak of the wooden boards under your feet and the rustle of wind moving through the pines. Finally, you ask Master, "What are you thinking?" He glances at you, then back at the mountain. No words. You try again. "Is there something I should be doing right now?" This time he doesn't even look. His silence is not the absence of sound, it's a presence like the air before rain. A minute passes, then two. The longer you stand there, the more your mind reaches for something to fill the gap. Questions, explanations, the need for meaning. But none come. Just the soft shifting of clouds above the ridge. You start to feel restless, as if the quiet is pressing against you. "Master, please," you say. "At last, I don't understand." He turns to you fully now, his gaze steady, and after a long pause, he says, "Good." The word lands with more weight than you expect. Then he walks past you, stepping down from the veranda, and disappears into the shade of the garden. You stand alone, unsure if the conversation is over or if it even began. A breeze moves through, lifting the hem of your robe. You hear the faint knock of a wooden wind chime somewhere nearby. The sound is gentle, fading quickly, leaving you with only the open air. Slowly you realize the master's silence wasn't meant to answer your question. It was the answer. Somewhere inside, a shift occurs, not sudden, not dramatic. Just enough that the space around you feels a little wider, your breathing a little slower. From the far side of the garden, a flicker of light catches your eye. A small candle burns under the shelter of a wooden alcove, its flame trembling in the afternoon wind. You watch it sway, almost go out, then steady itself again. And you wonder, how does something so small keep shining when the wind won't stop? The alcove is barely big enough to hold the candle and a small clay dish beneath it. The wood around it is worn smooth darkened by years of smoke. You kneel to get a closer look, feeling the faint heat brush against your face. The wind threads through the courtyard, making the flame lean dangerously, almost bowing to it. Then somehow it rights itself again, its glow steadying as if it remembers why it's there. An older nun appears from the far side of the garden, carrying a bundle of herbs. She pauses when she sees you watching. "It's been burning since dawn," she says, setting the herbs down. "Not because we need the light, but because the candle needs to burn." You tilt your head. Why would the candle need to burn? She smiles faintly, because that is its nature, to give light until it cannot. The wind is not its enemy, only a reminder that nothing is guaranteed. She takes a seat on the low step beside you, her eyes following the flame as it wavers again. Most people guard themselves so tightly against the wind that they forget they were meant to shine, not hide. They spend their lives building walls and then wonder why they feel no warmth. You sit quietly, letting her words settle. The flame bends once more, shrinking, then surges upright as the wind passes. There's no defiance in it, just a kind of calm persistence. The nun picks up one of the herbs from her bundle, a sprig of rosemary, and places it near the candle. The heat releases its scent, sharp and clean, curling into the air. Even if the flame goes out, she says the warmth it gave will linger in ways you can't see. You realize she's not just talking about candles. A faint bell rings from somewhere deeper in the temple grounds. The nun rises, gathering her herbs again. "The bridge is waiting," she says, nodding toward the path beyond the garden wall. You stand, casting one last look at the candle. It flickers again, but holds. You find yourself silently wishing it well, as if it were an old friend staying behind. Beyond the wall, the path slopes downward until it reaches the start of a narrow bridge. From here, you can't see where it ends, only that it stretches far into the mist, each step disappearing into the next. And you wonder, how far can you go if you only think about the step beneath your feet? The bridge begins as a simple span of wood and stone, worn smooth by countless footsteps. Its railings are low bound together with ropes that sway slightly in the wind. Beyond the first dozen steps, the mist swallows everything. There's no telling how far it goes or what waits on the other side. You place your foot on the first board. It gives a soft creak, a sound that feels both like a warning and an invitation. The wood is cool under your soles, the grain ridged in places where rain and time have left their marks. A monk stands at the near end watching you. His robe is tied high at the waist, his hands folded loosely. "Don't look too far ahead," he says. "The bridge will take care of the rest. Just walk." You nod and step forward. The second board, then the third. Each one feels slightly different beneath your weight. Some firm, some with a subtle sway. The mist thickens, and soon the temple behind you is nothing but a shadow. "Count your breaths, not your steps," the monk calls out, his voice fading as you move deeper into the fog. You try it. Inhale. Exhale another step. The bridge creaks in rhythm with your breathing. Your focus narrows until all that exists is the small patch of wood beneath you and the soft grey air around you. Somewhere ahead, you hear faint footsteps approaching. Out of the mist emerges a woman carrying a bundle of firewood on her back. She passes, without hurry, offering only a brief nod before disappearing into the whiteness behind you. You keep moving, though you can't tell if you've gone 100 steps or 10. Time doesn't seem to matter here. Your feet find their way without needing to see where they'll land next. After a while, the boards underfoot grow warmer as though the sun is reaching them through the mist. You notice a faint glow ahead, just a hint of light filtering through. Each step toward it feels easier, lighter. When you finally reach the far end, the bridge gives way to solid ground. The mist thins, revealing a small clearing bathed in soft afternoon light. In the center, a single sparrow hops along the edge of a stone basin, dipping its beak into the water and shaking off tiny droplets. The bird pauses, tilting its head toward you as if it's been waiting. And you wonder, what could a creature so small have to teach you about this vast and quiet place? The sparrow's feathers are a patchwork of soft browns and pale grays, each one catching the sunlight in its own way. It hops along the rim of the stone basin, pausing now and then to dip its beak into the water. Tiny ripples spread outward, vanishing almost as soon as they appear. Beside the basin, a monk sits cross-legged on a low wooden stool. His robe is faded from years of sun, his face weathered but calm. He doesn't seem to mind the birds' company. In fact, it feels as though they've been sharing this moment long before you arrived. You've crossed the bridge, the monk says, his voice barely louder than the rustle of the leaves overhead. You nod. It felt longer than I expected. He smiles. Most paths do when you can't see the end. The sparrow flutters down from the basin to the ground, pecking at a stray seed. Then, without warning, it hops onto the monk's knee. He remains perfectly still, his hands resting loosely in his lap. You feed it, you ask. No, he replies, but I also don't frighten it away. The bird cocks its head, studying you with one small dark eye. You feel the urge to reach out, but something about the stillness of the scene keeps you from moving. The monk continues. When you sit quietly enough, long enough, the world forgets to be afraid of you. That is when it comes closer. You watch as the sparrow hops down again, pecking once more at the ground before taking flight. It circles the clearing once, then disappears into the trees, leaving behind only the faint sound of its wings. The monk closes his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply as though storing the quiet for later. The market is on the other side of the hill, he says at last. You'll hear it before you see it. You hesitate. The market. It sounds noisy. He opens his eyes, a slight smile returning. Noise is only a problem if you forget you are the sky and not the clouds. You bow slightly before following the narrow path out of the clearing. Soon the air begins to change, warmer, richer, carrying scents of roasting chestnuts and fresh bread. and just faintly, the hum of many voices begins to reach you, rising and falling like waves. And you wonder, how can stillness survive in a place where everything is always moving? The path opens suddenly, and the market spills out before you like a river of color and sound. Stalls line the narrow street, their awnings striped in red, blue, and green. Vendors call out to passing customers, their voices mingling with the clatter of wooden carts and the sharp ring of a blacksmith's hammer somewhere nearby. The air is thick with the scent of grilled fish, fresh herbs, and something sweet, perhaps honey cakes cooling on a tray. Children dart between stalls, laughing their hands, clutching paper fans or sticky pieces of candied fruit. At the edge of the market, sitting cross-legged on a wooden crate, is the monk. His robe is the same faded brown it was in the forest, his expression unchanged. He watches the flow of people without leaning forward or turning his head, as if the entire scene were a painting that didn't require his participation. You weave through the crowd until you're beside him. "It's loud here," you say, half shouting to be heard over the din. He nods. Yes. And yet, he closes his eyes for a moment. Do you hear the silence? You blink at him, unsure if he's joking. But then, you start to notice. Beneath the voices, the footsteps, the clatter of dishes, there's a steady, unbroken space. It's not an absence of sound, it's the part of you that isn't moved by it. A vendor approaches holding out a steaming bun. The monk accepts it with a bow, then tears it in half, offering one piece to you. The bread is warm and soft, the aroma rich with sesame. As you eat, you watch the crowd move, faces shifting from laughter to bargaining to mild irritation. And yet, the monk remains the same, chewing, slowly, eyes half-lidded. How do you keep your mind still here, you ask? He swallows before answering. I don't still my mind. I just stop letting it be pulled. A sudden shout erupts from the far end of the street. Two vendors arguing over a spilled basket of apples. The monk doesn't even turn his head. He finishes his bun, brushes the crumbs from his lap, and says, "Come." The day is ending. You follow him out of the market, the noise fading behind you. The path winds back toward the temple, the air cooling as the sun lowers. Soon you're standing once more at the familiar wooden gate. The monk steps aside, gesturing toward the dim interior. "Your room is waiting," he says. You step inside, the scent of cedar and tatami mats, welcoming you back. The space is just as you left it. Bare walls, a low table, a folded blanket in the corner, and you wonder, after all you've seen, how can something so empty feel so complete? The sliding door closes softly behind you, shutting out the last traces of the market's noise. The room smells faintly of cedar and the cool mineral scent of evening air drifting through a narrow window. Shadows stretch long across the tatami, their edges soft like brush strokes fading into the page. You place your folded blanket on the floor and sit. The stillness here is not the same as the stillness of the mountain or the bridge. It's deeper, as if the walls themselves are listening. For a moment, you trace the journey in your mind. The lantern in the rain, the endless tea, the bell's quiet hum, the sandals left behind. The river that never stopped, the rice at dawn, the clouds, the old pine, the sweeping of nothing, the master's silence, the candle's persistence, the bridge, the sparrow, the market. And now, this empty room. You realize it's not really empty at all. Every step you've taken, every word and silence, every scent of rain, pine and warm bread, they're all here in the space between these walls, in the breath you take right now. The last light of the day slips away, leaving only the faint glow of the moon through the paper screen. The air cools, and the quiet settles even further, like a blanket drawn over the world. You lie down, the tatami firm beneath you, the blanket light over your body. Your breath slows, and the edges of the room blur in your mind. Somewhere outside, the wind moves gently through the pines. The sound is low, steady, neither calling you nor pushing you away. Just being there as you are here. Your eyes grow heavy. The space between thoughts widens. You are no longer walking, no longer watching. You are simply resting in the middle of the story. And as sleep begins to carry you, you sense that nothing has been lost, only placed down, like sandals at a gate. This is enough. The night deepens. The moonlight is softer now, no longer spilling in but resting gently against the paper screen, like a hand that doesn't want to wake you. The air is still except for the slow, unhurried breath you take in and let go. Somewhere beyond the walls, a pine branch sways its needles, whispering to no one in particular. A single drop of water falls from the eaves, lands in the small stone basin outside, and ripples once before disappearing. The sound fades into the kind of quiet you can feel in your bones. You notice how the room has grown darker, not because the light has gone, but because your eyes have stopped looking for it. The shapes of the table, the folded blanket, the door, they're all still here, but softer, like memories that know they don't need to be sharp to be true. Your breath settles into an easy rhythm, in, out, like the bell you heard this morning, like the river's endless current. Each inhale brings the whole day back to you. Each exhale lets it drift away. There's no need to hold anything now. Not the words, not the lessons, not even the story. Everything you've seen, the lantern, the tea, the old pine, rests quietly in the empty space inside you. Tomorrow will come in its own time. For now you are here, still, safe, enough. When you open your eyes again, it may be morning, or it may be another path, another bridge, another quiet flame. And perhaps you'll follow it, or perhaps you'll simply rest. If you'd like to keep walking, let your dreams carry you into the next story. Buddhism, the religion of no religion. Zen, Buddhism for deep sleep. Good night, sweet dreams. End of script. Sweet dreams.